more than 40,000 veterans in the United States are currently homeless, not lost, not forgotten by everyone, but standing on corners and sitting in doorways, invisible to the people walking past them. One of those men was named James. James Calloway was 22 years old when he left the family farm in Boone County, Iowa, in the spring of 2003. He was 6 feet tall with hands already rough from 4 years of working the land beside his father, Tom. He had a habit of squinting when he smiled, like the sun was always in his eyes even when it wasn't. His mother, Carol, stood at the end of the gravel driveway and watched the truck carrying him disappear into the flat horizon. She did not cry until she was back inside the kitchen. Tom said nothing. He walked back to the barn. James was United States Army infantry. His unit deployed to Iraq within 6 weeks of his enlistment date. He was 22 years old. He had never been east of the Mississippi. The letters came every 2 or 3 weeks through 2003 and into 2004. Carol read them at the kitchen table where 4 generations of Callaways had eaten breakfast. The table was oak, dark from decades of use, and it sat beneath a window that looked out across the fields toward the tree line to the north. James wrote about the heat. He wrote about his unit. He wrote about a kid named Danny from Omaha who could fix anything with whatever was nearby. He wrote, once, about a morning that was very quiet and then wasn't. He did not write more about that. Tom planted the spring corn and did not talk about the letters. Carol kept every one of them in a tin box on the shelf above the refrigerator. In August of 2004, a sedan came down the gravel driveway. 2 soldiers in dress uniform. Carol saw them from the kitchen window before they reached the door. She said, "Tom." That was all. Tom came in from the back porch and saw her face, and then he saw the car and he sat down at the kitchen table without being asked. The 2 soldiers knocked. Tom stood back up. He opened the door. James Calloway, Army specialist, had been killed in action on August 14, 2004. He was 23 years old. He had been in country for 14 months. He had been awarded the Bronze Star with Valor for an action he had never written home about. The flag came home, folded in a triangle. Carol put it on the shelf next to the tin box. The years did not move in any particular direction after that. They just moved. Tom aged the way men age when something inside them goes quiet. His hair went white by the time he was 60. He kept working the fields because the fields needed working, and because he did not know what else to do with his hands. Carol planted marigolds along the fence line every May because James had liked the color orange. She said once, to her sister Bate, that the hardest part was not the grief. The hardest part was ordinary Tuesday mornings, when she would think of something funny and turn to tell James, and then remember. "That catches you," she said, "every time." Bate nodded. She had no answer for that. Nobody does. James's younger brother, Mike, was 34 and had their father's build and their mother's eyes. He had not left Iowa. He farmed. He had a daughter named Anna who was 8 years old and had never met her uncle, but knew his face from the photograph on the county fair display wall where Boone County honored its veterans. Every year at the fair, Anna would stop in front of that photograph. She would stand very still. One summer, Mike watched her standing there and walked over. "What are you thinking?" he asked. Anna said, "He looks like he's about to say something." Mike looked at the photograph. James in his dress uniform, squinting slightly, the sun somewhere in his eyes. "Yeah," Mike said, "he always did." In the spring of 2019, a woman named Sandra was late for a meeting in Des Moines. She was 48, dressed well, and moving fast through the block outside the convention center. There was a man sitting on the curb near the parking entrance. Old coat, worn boots, a cup in front of him. Without slowing down, Sandra reached into her coat pocket and flicked a coin toward the cup. It missed. It rolled. The man looked up. His name was not James. James came home in a flag-draped coffin. This man was a Vietnam veteran named Roy, 69 years old, with the kind of stillness in his face that comes from things he would not explain to anyone. He watched the coin roll. He did not pick it up. A younger man passing behind Sandra stopped. He was wearing a Boone County Feed Co-op cap and carrying a bag from a hardware store. He watched what happened. He reached into his own pocket and put a folded bill into Roy's cup. Then he crouched down to the man's eye level. "Appreciate your service," he said quietly. Roy looked at him. "You farm?" "My whole life." Roy nodded once. "Hard work?" "Yes, sir." The man stood and walked on. Sandra had already disappeared around the corner. She did not see any of it. That evening, Carol set the table for dinner. Mike brought Anna. Tom, now 81, moved slow but sat at his usual spot. The meal was nothing special. Pork chops and corn and bread from that morning. Outside the kitchen window, the fields were turning green in the April light. Anna asked, "Grandma, what was Uncle James's favorite food?" Carol thought about it. Peanut butter toast, with too much peanut butter, every morning. Tom made a small sound. It might have been a laugh. Carol looked at him. He was looking at his plate, but the corner of his mouth was up. "Every morning," he said. "Made a mess of the counter." Anna smiled. She had never heard that before. She would not forget it. That is what carrying someone forward looks like. Not a monument, not a ceremony. A family at a kitchen table on an ordinary Tuesday evening in April, keeping the small true things alive. There are more than 40,000 veterans without a place to sit for dinner tonight. Most of them served without asking for recognition. Most of them would be uncomfortable with the word hero. They would be more comfortable with, "He did what needed doing." She held the line. He came when called. That is enough. That has always been enough. If this story stayed with you, share it with someone who needs to hear it. Leave a comment below with a name of a veteran you want remembered today. Like this video and subscribe to Soul Relief Stories so you never miss a story worth telling.